Have you ever wondered why some people with modest incomes seem profoundly satisfied with life, while others with vast fortunes remain perpetually empty? What if the pursuit of riches has been distracting you from genuine wealth all along? If you're tired of the endless chase for more money that never seems to deliver true contentment, this video holds ancient wisdom that could transform your relationship with wealth forever. Before we dive into these life-changing Stoic principles, take a second to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. If these ideas resonate with you, drop a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps this wisdom reach more people seeking true abundance. Secret 1. Wealth is a mindset, not a number. The ancient Stoics understood something most financial advisors won't tell you. True wealth has little to do with your bank balance. Seneca, despite being one of Rome's richest men, wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Consider the hedonic treadmill we're all running on, constantly chasing the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next status symbol. Yet psychological research consistently shows that after basic needs are met, additional income produces diminishing returns on happiness. The Stoics identified this pattern thousands of years ago. Ask yourself, what's one possession you desperately wanted that, once obtained, failed to deliver lasting happiness? Share your experience in the comments below. You might be surprised how many others have similar stories. The wealthy mindset begins with an audit of your relationship with desire itself. Epictetus taught that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This isn't deprivation, it's liberation. By consciously choosing what truly matters, you prune away the excess desires that keep you perpetually dissatisfied. Try this practical exercise. For the next week, before any non-essential purchase, impose a 72-hour waiting period. Write down why you want it and how you imagine it will improve your life. After 3 days, review your notes. Has the urgency faded? What does this reveal about the nature of your desires? Have you noticed how the things you once considered luxuries quickly become necessities in your mind? Type hedonic adaptation in the comments if you've experienced this phenomenon, where yesterday's exciting purchase becomes today's baseline expectation. The Stoic solution isn't earning more but desiring less. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition, but rather aligning it with genuine value rather than social status. When we stop defining our worth through material possessions, we discover a form of abundance that no market crash can diminish. Secret 2. Practice the dichotomy of control. How much anxiety in your financial life comes from fixating on things completely outside your control? The stock market, housing prices, inflation, economic downturns. These external factors consume our thoughts, while the Stoics would remind us they aren't ours to command. Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. This principle transforms financial planning entirely. Instead of the illusion of controlling outcomes, I must have X amount by age Y, we focus on controlling our approaches, learning continuously, spending mindfully, and maintaining ethical standards regardless of results. Consider the mental energy wasted on financial worries that never materialize. Studies show that 85% of what we worry about never happens. Yet we sacrifice present contentment for these phantom futures. The Stoic alternative is to direct that same energy toward actionable improvements within our sphere of influence. Have you ever spent hours anxiously checking your investments during market volatility? How did that affect your well-being compared to the actual financial impact? Type worry tax in the comments if you recognize this self-imposed suffering. Try creating a financial dichotomy of control list. 2 columns separating what you can control, spending habits, skill development, savings rate, from what you cannot, market returns, economic policy, other people's financial decisions. Resolve to focus exclusively on the first column for the next 30 days. The Stoic approach to uncertainty isn't blind optimism, but prepared acceptance. Marcus Aurelius advised to never let the future disturb you. You will meet it with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. What financial weapons of reason are you currently developing? What aspects of your financial situation are completely within your control right now? Type control in the comments if you're ready to focus exclusively on these factors, and release attachment to the rest. This shift alone can transform financial anxiety into purposeful action. By focusing our energy on our spending decisions, savings habits, and skill development rather than economic forecasts, we reclaim agency over our relationship with money. Secret 3. Impairment, negative visualization. Paradoxically, one path to feeling wealthier involves regularly contemplating having less. The Stoic practice of negative visualization, premeditio malorum, trains us to appreciate what we already possess. Seneca advised wealthy Romans to set aside days for practicing poverty, eating simply, wearing basic clothes and sleeping on the floor. Why? Because if you would not have a man flinch when the crisis comes, train him before it comes. This practice dissolves the fear of loss that keeps us chained to possessions. Take a moment to imagine, what if your income was suddenly cut in half? Which expenses would you eliminate first? Which would you fight to maintain? This mental exercise reveals your true priorities and highlights how much of your spending fails to serve your authentic values. This isn't mere philosophical speculation, it's practical preparation. When economic downturns inevitably occur, those who have mentally rehearsed simplicity navigate them with remarkable resilience, while those who assumed prosperity was permanent often collapse under the psychological weight. Consider implementing a monthly Stoic day where you voluntarily live without modern conveniences. Perhaps no electricity after sunset, no processed foods, no digital entertainment. Notice how quickly your baseline for enough resets, and how much more grateful you feel when returning to your normal life. Negative visualization extends beyond material possessions to relationships and health. Have you imagined what it would mean to lose access to clean running water, functioning transportation, a loved one? These reflections sharpen our appreciation while we still have these blessings. Have you ever experienced a financial setback that unexpectedly taught you something valuable? Share your story of finding wealth in loss in the comments. The cognitive psychologist Martin Seligman found that people who practice defensive pessimism, mentally preparing for negative outcomes, paradoxically experience more positive emotions and less anxiety than optimists who avoid contemplating difficulties. The Stoics discovered this principle millennia ago. When practiced regularly, this mental exercise neutralizes hedonic adaptation, the human tendency to quickly take our blessings for granted. By contemplating the impermanence of what we have, we experience it more fully. Secret 4. Invest in internal capital. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Epictetus. The Stoics recognized that developing internal resources, knowledge, virtue, emotional resilience, creates returns no market can match. Unlike external assets that can be taxed, stolen, or devalued, internal capital appreciates with use. Consider how differently society would function if we celebrated growth in wisdom rather than growth in possessions. Imagine performance reviews based on character development rather than just productivity metrics. The Stoics lived by this alternative value system within a culture as materialistic as our own. Musonius Rufus taught that education should focus on forming character rather than accumulating information. What good is it to understand the workings of the universe if you cannot order your own mind? This internal investment strategy prioritizes self-governance over external acquisition. Take inventory of your internal assets. What skills have you developed that create value regardless of economic conditions? What virtues have you cultivated that serve you in both prosperity and adversity? How might you intentionally develop these further? Have you noticed that the most impressive people rarely need to display status symbols? Their internal wealth radiates through their presence, communication, and decision-making. Type internal status. If you can think of someone whose character impresses you more than their possessions, what's one internal investment you've made that has paid ongoing dividends in your life? Perhaps learning a new skill, developing emotional intelligence, or cultivating a meaningful relationship. Type internal wealth if you're committed to building this form of capital. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius, despite commanding the resources of the Roman Empire, wrote in his private journals about the superiority of philosophical wealth. No thefts of free will can occur. While external fortunes fluctuate, internal development compounds reliably across a lifetime. Try this practical shift. For every hour you spend researching external investments, spend an equal hour developing an internal resource. Whether through reading philosophy, practicing a skill, or deepening a relationship, track which investment yields more lasting satisfaction. Consider allocating your resources differently, less toward impressing others and more toward experiences that develop character and wisdom. A library card and daily reading habit can yield greater returns than luxury purchases that briefly impress before fading into background normalcy. Secret 5. Embrace strategic discomfort. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" Seneca. Voluntary discomfort, periodically choosing the more challenging path, builds immunity against fortune's inevitable fluctuations. When we intentionally practice living with less, we discover our remarkable capacity for adaptation. This Stoic practice aligns perfectly with modern psychological research on resilience. Studies show that controlled exposure to stressors strengthens our ability to handle future challenges. Just as a vaccine introduces a manageable dose of a pathogen to build immunity, voluntary discomfort inoculates us against future hardship. Consider implementing comfort challenges into your routine. Cold showers, fasting periods, digital detoxes, or sleeping on the floor occasionally. Each experience expands your comfort zone and reveals how many of your needs are actually preferences in disguise. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming a philosopher, taught that freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling desire. Each voluntary discomfort is an exercise in freedom, proving that your well-being isn't hostage to external conditions. Have you noticed how quickly humans adapt to hardship when necessary? Think of camping trips, where sleeping on the ground and cooking over fire quickly becomes normal, or how previous generations navigated scarcity with remarkable resilience. What does this suggest about our true needs? Have you ever practiced voluntary simplicity, perhaps through camping, fasting, or a spending freeze? What surprised you about the experience? Share your voluntary discomfort story in the comments below. The modern philosopher William Irvine suggests negative visualization pairs perfectly with voluntary discomfort. First, imagine losing comforts, then temporarily experience their absence. Together, these practices develop psychological antibodies against materialism's empty promises. Try this. Identify your most reflexive comfort behavior. perhaps scrolling social media, ordering takeout, or using climate control. Commit to abstaining for an increasing duration each week. Document how the discomfort evolves and what insights emerge about your relationship with convenience. This practice isn't about punishment, but preparation and perspective. By occasionally embracing frugality by choice rather than necessity, we defang financial fears and discover how little we truly need to be content. Secret 6. Practice generous minimalism. The wealthiest people by Stoic standards aren't those who accumulate the most, but those who need the least while contributing the most. Wealth flows through them rather than accumulating stagnantly. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have been made by nature for the purpose of working with others." This principle transforms how we view material possessions entirely. Instead of asking, "What can I acquire?" the Stoic asks, "What can I direct toward its highest purpose?" This might mean keeping fewer possessions maintained in excellent condition, sharing resources within communities, or directing financial flows toward causes aligned with rational values. Consider how different our economy would be if everyone embraced this philosophy. Modern research confirms that experiences and contributions create significantly more lasting happiness than material accumulation. The hedonic treadmill applies much less to giving than getting. Seneca, despite his wealth, practiced moderation while using his resources to elevate others. He wrote, "I am not the master of any man and have no slaves myself, yet others consider us masters. No, we are friends, and I claim that we are friends on equal terms." His wealth became a tool for equalizing opportunity rather than creating hierarchy. Have you experienced how generosity creates a sense of abundance, even when resources are limited? Studies show that even small acts of giving activate neural pathways associated with reward and satisfaction. The Stoics would argue this reflects our natural orientation toward mutual assistance. Try conducting a purpose audit of your possessions. For each item, ask, "Is this serving its highest purpose in my possession, or could it create more value elsewhere?" This doesn't mean divesting everything, but ensuring that what you own aligns with rational values rather than ego attachments. What constitutes enough in your life? Defining this boundary explicitly creates the freedom to direct surplus resources toward contribution rather than endless accumulation. Type enough in the comments if you're working to establish this boundary in your own life. Reflect on this. What's the most meaningful way you've used money to create value for others? Was it through formal charity or something more personal? Type contribution if you believe giving creates more lasting satisfaction than getting. The Stoics would remind us that nature designed humans as social creatures. Our fulfillment comes through cooperation rather than competition. Zeno of Citium envisioned an ideal society where everyone recognized their roles as parts of a whole rather than isolated competitors. How might your financial decisions reflect this interconnected reality? By practicing generous minimalism, thoughtfully reducing what we consume while increasing what we contribute, we experience the profound truth that meaning ultimately trumps material in creating a wealthy life. Which of these 6 Stoic principles resonated most deeply with you? Will you be implementing any of them this week? Share your thoughts and commitment in the comments below. Remember, true wealth isn't measured by how much you have, but by how much you'd be okay without. By embracing these ancient principles, you can experience abundance regardless of your income level. Before you go, what's one area where you've been pursuing riches that you now realize might be distracting you from true wealth? Your insight might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear today.